didn't you just do that? Not exactly. The topic is similar and the video is complementary to the 5+ disc album runs. But there are two fundamental differences. First of all, we're talking about entire discographies, and secondly, the albums don't need to be all excellent. As long as there are no mediocre or poorly received releases that are objectively terrible, then the discography makes the list. Simply good albums that were a reason to exclude a run in the previous video are accepted here. Looking at the list, we observe some trends. There are many new bands and a lot of names from extreme metal. Regarding the first trend, obviously newer bands have released fewer albums, but also in the new era of heavy rock, there isn't the pressure from record labels to constantly have a product available in the market. A pressure that in the past led some very well-known names to make significant mistakes. As for the second trend, it stems from the fact that extreme bands know their limits and their audience. They are inherently non-commercial, and therefore freer to create on their own terms. The same restrictions apply as in the previous video. No live performances, no EPs, no splits, no compilations. Also, for the discography we mentioned to be valid, it should consist of a minimum of 4 albums. Each discography is accompanied by the average rating on Rate Your Music. Again, the names that made the list were chosen by me on purely personal criteria. Since 24 names were drawn, the comments will be brief. And again at the end, I will mention the bands that almost made it as well as the reasons why they were cut out. Here also, my comments will be shorter. Any disagreement is welcome as long as it remains civil. Don't forget that we're talking about entire discographies here. Sometimes there's the completely obscure debut or the album with one original member that breaks the streak. Their 2014 album, The Serpent and the Sphere, had deterred me from including them in the first video. But it's not even mediocre, so I couldn't exclude them from this list. If the nature of organ could be music, it would sound like these guys. An excellent band with a terrifyingly high-quality discography. Some might say something about honor, valor, pride, but for me, it might be just good. But there's no way it would make me leave them out of this list. They have one of the lowest averages, mainly due to the albums that open and close their discography. That's completely unfair to me, as both releases are significant and essential for understanding the band's journey and value.
The Black Machine! Coming hell, the king will rise again!
The fact that they made it onto this list because of the 2 albums they released in their new era, one in 2020 and one in 2023, says a lot in my opinion. If you can get past the impression left by Tim Baker's very distinctive vocals, personally I like them, you can enjoy one of the best US power metal bands of all time.
Ruins of Beverast, my weapon!
The reason they weren't in the first video has to do with the half collection, half new album, released under the title Coroner in 1995. Here, I decided to make a small exception to my own rules and include them, because it would be a shame due to semantic issues to miss out on one of the most important tech thrash discographies of all time. Their average, which is the highest among the 24 discographies, speaks for itself. A diamond discography from start to finish. Although Chuck Schuldiner untimely tragic death might have led to the opposite impression, it seems like the Death Project was over. although one can never be sure. A very unique band, and, in my opinion, always a very likable presence in the realm of modern extreme heavy rock. You see, they might not play the heavy metal of our youth, but they are fantastic musicians, and everyone can appreciate that. Some simply good albums had prevented me from including them in the first video, but it would be unfair for one of the most impressive discographies of the last 40 years to lead to a second absence. They started as one of the founders of Viking metal, and along the way became one of the biggest names in progressive metal. Truly awesome. Despite the difficulties and member changes at the beginning of their journey, the band from Birmingham proved to be as resilient as the steel their city once produced. It's quite interesting to me that both the band's name and at least one word in the titles of all their albums, except the fourth, are derived from Greek. I don't know how many people know that Justin Broderick, the mastermind behind Godflesh, was an original member of Napalm Death and even plays on the first side of Scum. I don't think we would have expected that listening to his band's extremely abrasive industrial sludge metal. If Swans were a metal band or if they had continued to play heavy, they would have sounded something like this. No one can deny the immense importance of the French band in the modern heavy metal scene. They have managed, through their merit and an incredible discography, to perform in front of huge audiences all over the world, playing something modern yet always clearly metal. There must be something in the water on the French side of Canada. The bands from there are so strange. The guys from Sherbrooke started as excellent but typical death metal enthusiasts, before with Obscura, changing the way the game was played. A new genre was even invented for their sake. One of the biggest names of the New York death metal scene, the band from Yonkers built their legend with the help of an outstanding discography and a very distinctive sound that is entirely theirs. Like Bolt Thrower, they built their own wall of sound through their extremely technical combination of tremolo picking, power chord changes, and pinched harmonics. The band, who started from Cali, Colombia and ended up in Seattle, plays a black metal that, without being light, could be listened to and appreciated by anyone. Their long album and song titles, as well as their rather extreme views on religion and politics, shouldn't put you off because their music is excellent. They might have had a push from Eson at the beginning, but they quickly figured it out on their own. They always teetered between progressive metal and art rock, with heaviness being always placed selectively on their releases. But they are of such high quality that I have to include them. We said it in the first video too. Viking black metal and pagan black metal that gradually transforms into something extremely atmospheric, unafraid to incorporate elements from their homeland's unique folk music. one of the two bands on this list that never sang in English. I don't know if it's a coincidence that both bands in the list, who have never sung in English, sing in Finnish, although the band from Tampere couldn't be more different from the one from Helsinki. They might both start from black metal, but these guys go down strange psychedelic paths, venturing far outside the genre's boundaries. I don't know. Maybe a necessary condition for someone to have an immaculate discography is to be underrated. These Irish guys mixed black metal and epic heavy sound with the folk and traditions of their homeland and delivered something so uniquely magnificent that it was destined to become huge simply based on general principles. And yet, that never happened.
Well, I'm a million miles away. I'm a million like a wave, and you I turned up again.
The Great Irishman couldn't be missing from this video either, as his discography has no weak points. Perhaps the fact that he never achieved great success contributed to this, as the pressure from record labels was clearly less than that on some of his more illustrious colleagues. Like many modern black metal bands, this is a one-man project by the multi-instrumentalist Alexander von Meilenwald. Their sound is an extremely eclectic mix of black metal, atmospheric rock, and funeral doom metal, which creates a unique, imposing, and evocative sound. The Legends of Epic Doom Metal released a series of excellent albums without ever managing to translate their musical value into corresponding commercial success. So, logically, in 2011, 5 years after the last album of a brilliant discography, they decided to go on hiatus. Fortunately for all of us, they returned in 2023, and we're waiting to see if they will add another link to this discography.
Everybody's going to the party, have a real good time. He's scared that I will take her away from there.
While never officially disbanding, the Armenian Americans from California haven't released a new album since 2005, and it took a war back in their homeland for them to record 2 new tracks. Of course, everything stems from what happened during the recordings of the Mesmerize Hypnotize album duo, which would be worth an entire video on its own. The result, however, remains the same. No one will ever know how far this band could have gone. After inventing the American side of Gothic metal, Peter Steele's band created an extremely serious and selective discography in which quantity was replaced by quality. It's a shame that this band never reached the end of its journey, as Steele passed away too early in 2010. Those who think death metal isn't as progressive and groundbreaking as black metal probably haven't heard these New Zealanders. Their second album, drawing elements from Gorguts, Morbid Angel, and Sludge, simply changed the way the world viewed the genre and ushered it into its new era. The truth is, I thought of many other names for this list, but had to cut them due to just 1 or 2 albums. Regarding the old classic bands, I think most of you know the weak links of their discographies, so I'll only mention those that came closest to being included. For Led Zeppelin, the reason is In Through the Outdoor. For Blue Oyster Cult, it's Club Ninja. For Rush, It wasn't Hold Your Fire, nor Test for Echo, but Roll the Bones. As for Thin Lizzy, I'd love to include them, but Shades of a Blue Orphanage has always been particularly uninteresting to me. Motorhead and their 22 albums came very close, which testifies to the immense value of their discography. But there will always be March or Die and or Snakebite Love. Let's address the two elephants in the room now. The first are Opeth. The choice is purely personal, and it's because of heritage. I have it on physical product, and I probably haven't listened to the whole thing more than twice. The second ones are Tool. As I've stated in some comments, I like them quite a bit without being a fanboy, and I'll admit that I consider Fear Inoculum to be way below the other four albums. Let's also talk a bit about the forgotten debuts that ruin entire discographies. Meshuggah and Contradictions Collapse, Nevermore, and Between the Buried and Me, with their self-titled albums. I'll be more concise. For Candlemas, it was the controversial Dactylus Glomerata. For Trouble, The Distortion Field. For Deftones, Gore. For Queens of the Stone Age, Villains. For Alice in Chains, Rainier Fog. And for Mastodon, Emperor of Sand. Regarding my beloved Voivode, I've never been able to get Negatron nor Infini. I'll conclude with Blind Guardian, for whom I don't know what to make of Legacy of the Darklands, and with King Diamond, for whom I consider Abigail 2 rather unsuccessful. But I might be biased because I've become particularly attached to the original. You see how difficult it is to have a spotless discography after all.